Andrew, Todd, Chip, Mary, Javier, all of you guys did a great job teeing up how we're ready for wildfire preparedness in Carmel and emergency evacuation. So that tonight's going to be a more informal, general discussion. We have a lot of questions from the audience. We've got questions that you all have sent in via the internet and so forth. So we'll try to get to most of them. If we don't get to them all, we apologize up front. And I know all these folks are available via phone or email to answer any of the questions that you have. It's a very serious topic, to say the least, based on the tragedy that's happened down in Southern California. And with that in mind, at the end of the program tonight, we have a special presentation with two members of the CERT team, the Community Emergency Response Group, and that's Wanda Volmer and her partner Scott Smythe. And then we also have Carmel-by-the-Sea Rotary Club here as well. Mark Rancolas is the current president of Rotary, and Angeli Bodie will be here as well. So we'll have a special presentation at the end of the program tonight. So with that as a backdrop, we'll get right to it. And Chief, I'm going to come over and sit next to you if that's okay.
Yeah.
And we'll get started. So again, it was a great session that we all had with you all on Monday night. I hope many of you were there. And I'm sure there were some key takeaways and some learnings that you all had. So Andrew, if we could start with you, Todd, and then Chip, what you learned, some of the questions coming from council and the like, and then we'll get into some specific questions from there. Andrew.
All right, I'll go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I truly appreciate even this opportunity to speak with you all. One thing I think that I learned more than anything is that Carmel really cares about what's happened in Southern California, what's happening all across the state, and how it's really impacted our lives here. And I just want to say that as a fire chief, it gives me great confidence to know when a community cares. I know the city administrative staff, Chip and his staff care. I know the mayor and council care, and that's like the perfect combination for us all to work together, and we can be successful. So that's probably one of the most important things I learned from the meeting of the night. I work for other cities as well, and I've had like 35 years of experience in fire service. And to be quite honest, I've never really worked in a community that really does care so much. And not just about this topic, but all topics that are really important for life and fire safety within the village. So thank you all for this opportunity tonight. I look forward to having some dialogue. And I just want to say, if for some reason tonight, if I can't answer one of your questions, I'll make sure to get back to you with that answer. So I don't want anybody walking away from here tonight feeling like they haven't had their questions answered. Or if you also want to follow up with me later, you can always contact me through my office, and I'll pass it on.
Great. I always dread speaking after Chief Miller, but I'll go for it. First of all, thank you for coming. What a showing tonight. And I've been to a million different community meetings at my prior job, and I wouldn't get a third of the amount of people that are here tonight. So I'll echo what Chief says about your participation and your caring. I can tell you, I've been here a month. You're on my 1 month anniversary today. So I know you can tell by the wrinkles on my face that this isn't my first go around, but I can tell you that in the last month, the amount of meetings I've been to with all of staff about this topic impressed me with the amount of implementation that had happened long before, years ago, that had been prepared for here. So I am grateful to walk into that situation instead of quite the opposite, which I hope after watching the meeting on Monday, if you were able to, and tonight answering your questions, you feel the same way, that there's a group of people who care and love for this community and work very hard, spend a lot of money on it to try and make sure we're doing everything. Now there's more we can do, right? And that's part of the topic tonight. But I just am grateful to be here, and I hope we get to answer your questions tonight. I do have a flyer. I did 30 of them, and I think there's more than 30 people here. But I'll have this available to you so you can get in touch with myself or any of us. It also has some of the other alert systems if you're not part of that system for Alert Monterey County, or the new alliance thing that we're working on with the police department. I'll talk a little bit about later, just so you have our information. Thanks.
Great, thanks, Commander. Chip Rerig, your city administrator. I'm about to enter my 10th year with the village.
Yeah,
Is this
I don't think it's on.
No, yeah.
The green light's on.
that one work?
Thank you. I'm still Chip Rerig. Well, that's better. Thanks to the commander for joining us. Again, it is his 1 month anniversary, and of course, Chief Miller's been doing this since he was 9 years old for the last 35 years. So, just to reinforce, we're always here. We enjoy these. So, thanks to the CRA for inviting us to these. We enjoy doing these very much, and we're always happy to come out. We're also always happy to answer your questions, buy you a cup of coffee. In-person meetings or via email or telephone calls or what have you. I think the 3 takeaways from Monday, and I was really proud of the team, and again, up front we've got Mary Bilsey, she was a planner 30 years ago with me back in the bullpen in City Hall, and I was able to cajole her back to come in. She's our acting Public Works Director, and Javier, who's been with us for 2 years. 2 years, our project manager, but he's really acting in a deputy or assistant public works director capacity. And thank you both for being here. And so when I make mistakes on the answers, my colleagues will correct me. Apologies, Chief Tomasi has a bronchial infection. He can't shake. Now Brandon has it, and Justin Ono, our city forester, is actually out policing trees. So that's where the rest of our colleagues are. So again, we'll do our best. The 3 takeaways that I had, I call them the 3 C's, and they really come down to communication, collaboration, and coordination. And what you see here is we do a pretty good job communicating with the villagers and the surrounding residents in the county. But I think we can do better. And so what the council has tasked me with is coming up with a social media platform. So we'll be taking a social media policy to the council in March, and then the commander's going to set up a Instagram social media feed, and then we'll be setting one up for the city as well, so we can better get information out. And part of what the commander has here is to join Alert Monterey County, which again is a system that you can find out information. We've been getting emails all day today from Pacifico Gas and Electric, the investor-owned utility. We don't get as many from Cal-Am, our water investor-owned water utility, but we can work better with them about getting communication out as well. So communication, collaboration. This is our fire chief. We do contract for fire protection services with the city of Monterey, but they are our fire department, and so we collaborate with Chief Miller and his team, and then we also coordinate. We've got, again, our members of our CERT team. We have our VIPs. We've got numerous wonderful volunteer groups in the village. Carmel Cares, Friends of the Carmel Public Library, Friends of the Forest, Friends of Mission Trail Nature Preserve, that all help us do the things that we can't do as a municipal enterprise because there's only 96 of us. So anyway, so those are kind of my big 3 takeaways, Graham. And then the other thing that came up, there was a question about vacant properties, and it really struck me. And again, I think we can do a better job communicating with the people who own property here but don't live here. There was a lady, Laura Bowling, who spoke the other night, who said that of the 26 homes on her block, she's the only home that is occupied on a full-time basis. So how do we reach out to those vacant property owners and make sure that they know what's available, well, what we're doing, and what's available in the way of fire protection, emergency preparedness, and those kinds of things. So that's my answer, sir.
You want to throw it down? Well, I think that the discussion tonight is going to be kind of across the board. So, it's not going to be totally organized. And I want to build on kind of what Chip talked about just a minute ago. And I don't mean to put you guys on the spot, but second home ownership and getting the word out to people that, live in Houston or other towns. Any ideas how we can best facilitate that and make that happen? I was talking to Karen Ferlito earlier on, and how can we communicate to those folks and actually let them know there's a fire in their house, or there's a tree that needs to be tended to, or brush that needs to be removed. So, Jeff?
I'll ask Chief Miller to talk about the inspections that Monterey Fire does, but actually the mayor and I were just talking about this today. because of our volunteer network, and whether it's the Residents Association or some other group, we can get a list, and this is public information, from Monterey County of property owners. So maybe we could put together a mailer that with a QR code or something where they can tap into the information, just reminding them. We're quite proud. We've got our Friday letter. It reaches over 1,500 people. My mother gets it every year, in Philadelphia. She was very disappointed to know that we had to cancel the farmers market today. And I said, were you flying in from Philadelphia to buy grapefruit? But it has it's a great network, and Brandon and I and other people do a vlog every Friday. We'll do that tomorrow morning. But looking at other opportunities to reach out to those absentee property owners, and again, by whatever means is available. But again, the mayor and I came up with this concept of writing some kind of a letter to get people engaged, whether again it's the Friday letter or the city website or social media, just so they're better connected. And then maybe that triggers them to actually contact their neighbors, and so that there's a little bit more neighborliness from people that live abroad and happen to own property here but don't know their neighbors. So that's kind of the idea that we came up with initially.
I just got a microphone here. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yeah.
So I also have a takeaway from the meeting. That was a great question. Because that is one thing that's kind of unique about the village, is that there is a transient occupancy here based on second homes. So one of the things we're starting in May of this year, we're going to do defensible space inspections in all the areas with a high fire severity zone. And I'm sorry I don't have a PowerPoint to show you the maps, but it's really everything that's kind of around Pescadero Canyon and Mission Trails Park and those neighborhoods. That's our very high fire severity zone areas. And every one of those homes, to include homes that are not, people that don't live here, we're gonna send one of our defensible space self-inspections, and it's kind of goes through the whole, I don't have a lot of handouts here tonight, but it's a kind of a pamphlet that we'll send out, and then it's a self-inspection, but we're also gonna do inspections, so I think this will be a good first contact, because if someone's living in, I don't know, Houston, and they get this, and it's coming from the fire department, and it's an official inspection, they're more apt to probably reach out to us and let us know, hey, we're not there, but what do we need to do to get you in there to get that inspection done? And we can also do that if you, live next door to somebody or that doesn't live there full time, and you're concerned about something on the property, just reach out to the Fire Prevention Division at Monterey Fire, and we will contact them, even if they live in Houston. We'll figure out how to get a hold of them. If we can't get a phone number, we'll send them something, but we will take action trying to figure out what we can do to get onto the property to mitigate whatever issue that needs to be resolved. So that's just some thoughts that I have.
And I'll just echo, on Monday morning before the meeting, I met with 20 people from the community, and someone brought up a home next to them that appeared abandoned, and I was able to track down the son of the occupants that used to live there, and he came up with a whole plan to abate the overgrowth and whatever else was going on at that house. So just know that we are the liaisons for you. If you're not getting the right answer, please contact us, and we can help move it to the right people.
And I know if there's anything that we can do through the CRA and our 890 members, Chip, Andrew, Todd, we're willing to help out however we can to make sure that we get the word out. I think door to door and actually talking to a live person is obviously, critical. So we're here to help on that, in that regard. We talked about Mission Trail Park, we talked about Pescadero Canyon and Forest Hill Park. Those are the high risk areas in town right now. What are we doing to mitigate that risk as we move forward?
It's a great question. If you saw the slide that Mary prepared the other night, so it wasn't too long ago that we were spending well less than $250,000 on forest. So we have 13,000 trees, public trees in the city. And we recently completed an inventory of all of them. Chief Miller can talk passionately. We adopted a community wildfire protection plan. The Forest and Beach Commission, I think there were some members here. Mr. Myers was previously chair of Forest and Beach Commission. We're updating, what do we call it now? The Carmel Urbanized Forest Master Plan. So we're updating that plan now, so we look at what the urbanized forest has been through, and then how are we going to address climate change and other changes in the natural environment to address the future of the forest. This year we budgeted almost $1.5 million for the urbanized forest, and that includes removal of dead, dying, and diseased trees, stump removal, the wonderful logs that are standing up where the utility companies have attached sometimes power lines to. So we're going through that. There is a backlog, and Mary's worked on a 3-year plan to kind of catch up. So how you can be better involved is we're in the middle of we're in the budget preparation season right now for our next fiscal year, which is fiscal year 25-26. So we're always encouraging people to get involved in the budgeting process, and we're going to have some meetings coming up, and those are all posted all over our website. So please come and tell the council about what you think the priorities for the budget can be. That's number one. And then number two, the council is holding its semi-annual, we do it twice a year, semi-annual, strategic priorities meeting. So that's going to be on the 27th of February. That's usually in the daytime. It's usually like, 10 to 2 or 10 to 3, and we've got lunch. You can come and have snacks and coffee or whatever. But that's when the council sets the priorities for the enterprise ideally for the next year. Now, what the council has told me is this year we want to match up those priorities with the budget, with our capital projects, with the operating budget for forestry, so we can again mitigate impacts associated with Mission Trail Nature Preserve, Forest Hill Park, Pescadero Canyon, and those kinds of things.
So as we sit here today, maybe the tough question, is where do we stand on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of preparation? I mean, if there is a tragedy that happens like in Altadena or Pacific Palisades, how prepared are we? And then what do we do as we move forward? So.
I think we all have an answer.
That's a great question, and I'm sure that's what's on everybody's mind. Obviously, we all kind of watched what happened in Los Angeles unfold before our eyes, because that's the way the world works now, right? If there's something happening like that, it's in your face every single day. And it's kind of ironic, and I mentioned this the other day, like here we are talking about one of the worst wildland fires in the history of the United States, with over 19,000 structures burned to the ground. Some of those structures are like grocery stores, churches, schools, apartment buildings. And so that's a really scary thought. And it's January, right? It happened in January. We're having a winter storm right now, and we're number one on our minds is wildland fires. So this is how the world is kind of evolving and changing. What I will say though, and I think the commander mentioned it earlier, is we didn't just start doing this because we're reacting to the wildland fires that just took place. We've been working on these plans for years and years. And the Community Wildfire Protection Plan that we launched a few years ago, we finally got our new fuels mitigation program going with our defensible space inspectors. We're hiring new people to be a part of this. We hired we have a defensible space specialist, and she has walked through Pescadero Canyon. She's walked through Forest Hill Park. She's walked through Mission Trails Park. And she not only walked through with herself, but she also brings our neighboring jurisdictions, Pebble Beach Community Services District, the Cypress Fire Protection District, CAL FIRE, because we're all trying to work together, because we all need to protect each other. It's not like, we can have a mitigated and a safe area here, but you know what, that can burn into the next jurisdiction, and theirs can burn into ours. So we're treating this in a very collaborative effort. So we hired 3 part-time DSI inspectors this year, and next year we're going to double that to 6. And I also have just recently, this is where I get something positive out of tragedy. Since the fire, I've been working on a reorganization plan at the Monterey Fire Department because I want to put somebody who is a chief officer rank, like a commander rank, in charge of the loss prevention, right? Fuels mitigation. The Community Wildfire Protection Plan, in charge of all the DSI inspectors. So I was fortunate enough to get authorization. I promoted one of our division chiefs, Justin Cooper, who some of you might know, because I know he's been intimately involved. And he's now going to be a deputy chief that's going to manage our entire fire prevention division. So he's got some horsepower because he's a chief officer. He's got me behind him. You know, he's got Chip and Monterey's mayor and everybody behind him, because this is something we want to show the community that we're serious about. But that was something positive, because I was able to be able to make that move sooner, because it's forefront on everybody's mind. So from the response, that's kind of the prevention side. From the response side, and I mentioned this in our meeting the other night, you know, we're also fortunate to live in the state of California. We have the best mutual aid system in the entire world. We have other countries constantly coming in to study what we do in California. During the LA fires, day one, first fire, when it first ignited, we had one of the Monterey engine companies responding. They left at late at night. They showed up like at 4 a.m. in the morning and went right to work. See, so the way this system works is, if any time in Carmel, if we get any type of wildland, we'll launch a full wildland response, and it doesn't matter what that call is. So it just tells us there's something burning in the wildland. Monterey is immediately going to launch 3 engines, an incident commander, duty chief, and some more administrative staff. Now, on that size up, we can increase that just by, now people are saying, hey, we have smoke showing, or there's more going on, then we can upgrade that alarm. But also, because you live we work so close next to Pebble Beach and to Cypress, those are both CAL fire protection areas. So you know what? We have an auto way with them where they launch immediately. They're gonna send more engines, more personnel. They're gonna send hand crews if we need them. They're gonna send any kind of heavy equipment we might need. But also, they're immediately gonna launch aircraft. You know, they're gonna Hollister Air Attack Base. It's only Hollister. We're so close. We live it's so close. We're so fortunate we live so close to it, because they will launch immediately, and then you'll see the aircraft coming. They'll send a pilot plane in to kind of fly around and get an eye on things. And they'll start launching, fire bombers if they need to, and helicopters right off the bat. So, we're gonna hit it really fast, and we're gonna hit it really hard. Fast is response times. Carmel-by-the-Sea has some of the best response times that I know of. I just looked at our 2024 fire department average response time. It's like 3 minutes and 40-something seconds to anywhere in the city. That's from the time the alarm comes into the fire station till we end up wherever it's at. So the key is keep small fires small, right? We get the first company there. If they can contain that fire to that area of origin, I don't care if it's a structured fire or wildland fire, whatever it is, then we're golden, we're done. But in case it starts to get away from them, we've launched a robust system behind them. So automatically behind them, a lot of times people say, hey, why did I see, the Monterey ladder truck and all these engines and CAL FIRE? Why did I see these people here today? I didn't see any fire. That's because a fire got called in and we launched the world on it. We can always cancel them and turn them around, right? So that's why you see such a heavy, heavy presence on any type of structured fire or wildland fire in the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea. So, you own all that system as taxpayers, not only for Carmel-by-the-Sea, but the state of California. This is all, it all belongs to you. Monterey we have 100 employees, about 80 of them are safety, and every one of them works for Carmel-by-the-Sea, our fire prevention division, our administrative analysts, then obviously our boots on the ground, and we staff the Carmel Fire Station. And we have 5 in Carmel, right? We have 3 on the engine, we have 2 on the ambulance, and the ambulance are trained as firefighters. They've all been through the Monterey Fire Academy, so they work as one team. So that's really better than any of the other stations that we have within our system. You get 5 firefighters immediately to any call within the city of Carmel. So that's the response side. And I want you to feel really confident that, we can't guarantee you anything, obviously, but I want you to feel very confident that we have a very strong, robust response for any type of call like that within the city of Carmel-by-the-Sea.
So we have 5. I think comments like that, Andrew, are really important for the comfort level of our community and to get that word out and so forth. So do I understand it correctly? We have the 5 folks at the Carmel Fire Department here,
Yes.
and you have another, how many in Monterey?
We have a total of, we have 6 fire stations, and then, so that's 6 engines, 24/7, 365. We have 1 ladder truck, with a staffed company on it. They share downtown, an engine and a truck downtown. So all that equipment's available. It's like I said in the meeting the other night too. This shared service model we have, Monterey just bought a brand new $2 million tiller ladder truck. You know, and that's Carmel's ladder truck. I mean, when you get a structure fire response, it's coming, fully staffed, 24/7, 365. And it doesn't cost you anything because you're part of the shared service model. So this is, I think, the future of fire services. We need to share resources, because it used to be that Silver Grove had their own ladder truck, Carmel had their own ladder truck, you know, and it just doesn't make any sense because they weren't really used. But to have one in the system, critically important. Because, you know, downtown Carmel, you know, we have some pretty old buildings, and to me, I look at downtown Carmel as being the economic engine for this community, right? It really is. So we need to protect that economic engine, and we need to make sure we have the right tools. But there's no reason for Carmel to have on their own. I mean, you can spend that money on fuels mitigation or other things that are more important to the community. So I hope that answered the question.
So we've got great response time, we've got the personnel in place, we've got the equipment in place, both here locally in town, in Monterey,
Yeah.
and then the collaboration with the other groups.
Yes.
What about the evacuation, Todd? You know, if that worst case scenario comes out, you know, we have 2 or 3 areas, you know, to get out of town. The roads are narrow here. How do we go about that?
It's a great question, and I thought about that when I first took this job. Like, what happens if something big happens here? So Chief Tomasi sat down with me day one and showed me the emergency operation plan that existed in our city and how he's updating it. He's right in the middle of updating it right now, which is perfect timing. But like you said, the roads are narrow to get out of here, and there's a lot of people. When people start to panic and leave, it has to be controlled. The beautiful part of this community is you have an emergency operations center that I have walked through and checked it out. It is viable, it can be activated in a second, and then you have a group of people that will give all of their soul to making sure you get out safely. But that isn't enough, right? We need your help to make sure you're doing everything, that you're prepared as best as you can for those type of events. And that's where technology comes in. First of all, the alert system that we talked about, that will give you not only the fact that there's a fire or there's a tsunami warning, or some natural disaster, earthquake, let's say, that we need to be ready for, but also give you the options for you to go, which ways to go. If the earthquake messed up the street, messed up Ocean Avenue going to the to Highway 1, which way do you go? You know, right, you can think of 3 different ways, maybe 4, but there's 6. There's really 5 or 6 different ways to go, right? And we have to alert you of that, and then have the right people with the help of CERT, with the help of all of our teams getting together and getting you out to safety and telling you where to go. If I tell you to go on Highway 1, where are you gonna go? To Davenport? It's pretty far. But it is nice there though. But the reality is just sending you on your way isn't always the best way to go, unless it's just get out of the area.
Can I just jump in a little
Yes.
bit? This is a real critical topic, and I want everybody to understand, during a dynamic wildland fire, you know, the routes of travel that are shown on the map might not necessarily be the right way to go, right? We don't know where that fire's going, where it's traveling. We don't know if there's emergency equipment that's blocking the roadway. We don't know if there's gonna be trees down in that area. So it's really important, we talk about the alert in Monterey County, you need to listen to your public safety officials, because there's no set plan for getting out, right? Because we just don't know where the fire is gonna be or what the extent of the fire is gonna be. That's why, you know, the police department, the fire department, your CERT teams will all work together to make sure to communicate. But police officers, you know, when we're fighting the fire, certain police officers will go door to door. You know, we're not gonna leave anybody uncared for. You know, anybody that needs the rescue, if we get notification that somebody needs a rescue for whatever reason, we're gonna go get them, right? You know, we're gonna risk a life to save a life. I guarantee you that. So you just have to be confident to listen to your public safety officials and understand what is it you're supposed to do. Because the alert Monterey County, you know, it'll go to your cell phone, it'll go to your home phone. If you have a home phone, it'll go to your email, it'll text you, you know. And then if you have neighbors that maybe don't understand technology, or you're worried about because maybe, you know, they have some other issue where they can't, you know, be able to get out on their own, then you gotta look out for them. You know, you need to make sure you're getting them out when you go, or letting us know they're there, right, and they need help. And also, the last thing I want to say about evacuation, is if you're worried and you're hearing sirens and you're smelling smoke, just go. You don't have to wait till we tell you to go. Go, right? Seriously. And maybe you're being a little bit too, preempting, but that's okay. It's better just to go and go to the mall, get a cup of coffee and wait to hear what's going on. But you know what? If it is going on, you're already gone. So that's why you have to go. But I think our CERT teams are going to talk tonight about by the way, the CERT teams are absolutely phenomenal. The Carmel CERT team, the Monterey CERT team, they work together. Like if Monterey needs help, they come over there. If Carmel needs help, Monterey CERT comes over here. They all train together. You know, I'd say it's probably one of the best CERT teams, at least of this, maybe even the nation. I don't know. They have just an outstanding CERT team, and we're extremely proud of them. So you should be really proud to have them here. And they do great work for us during the storms. You know, wires down. We got an engine. We can't leave. So we have calls pending. Well, the CERT team will go stand in the rain, stand by the live wires down until PG&E can get there and make sure it's safe. What's that do for us? Lets us be able to go to the next call. That is super valuable. That's people power, right? That we don't have unless we have the CERT team. And they all can work together out of our EOC in Monterey or here. So the EOCs we talked about, we back each other's EOCs up. Carmel-by-the-Sea has a real significant wildland fire. They open their EOC. Monterey's opened their EOC just to help with the Carmel EOC. That's Emergency Operations Center. So just remember that about the evacuation. Listen to your public safety officials. Have your go bags ready, which I think they're going to talk about tonight. And if you're concerned, just go. Just go.
So we've got the evacuation routes, that information we can access. We've got the equipment, we've got the personnel. We should feel comfortable that in an emergency, we're in good hands. Shifting to the utilities, so specifically PG&E in Cal-Am. We had asked the PG&E representative to be here tonight. Unfortunately, they couldn't attend at the last minute, but PG&E has a role in this, and Cal-Am does as well. And the specificity behind it is, are the fire hydrants operational? Are they in the right spots? Do we test them? What does that look like, number one? And then number two, from a PG&E perspective, what are the wires, the poles, and are they actually maintained on a regular basis so we don't have a situation like Altadena or Pacific Palisades?
Well, I can speak to the fire hydrants, obviously. First of all, you need to understand that Cal-Am owns all the water mains in the ground, and they own all the fire hydrants. It's a municipal water service. It's privately owned. We don't have any authority to, work in that system at all. All the work's done. It's all done through Carmel. It's a utility. But what I can tell you is, after the fires, I knew that because everybody probably heard fire hydrants wouldn't open water, wouldn't get you any water. But let me explain something real quick, and then I'll tell you what my discussion was with Cal Fire. And that fire that they had in Southern California, that fire really wasn't even a wildland fire. It was an urban fire caused by the San Gabriel Mountains with these huge canyons and 80 to 90 to 100 mile an hour hurricane force winds pushing down into all those buildings, right, in a drought-stricken area. So maybe the first buildings got started that way, and then the fire brands keep getting pushed miles ahead. But each time a building caught on fire, that became the fuel for the next fire. You see, because these fires that were burning, they weren't in a wildland urban area. I mean, they weren't in a wildland, they were in an urban area. It'd be like downtown Monterey or something. It's just like, this was all urban. But it was just a really unique circumstance. Those Santa Ana winds, late that time of year, Southern California, they're experiencing severe drought. Severe drought. We're still getting moisture here. We're doing pretty good compared to what they went through down there. So then you have all these homes, right? Everybody's out there, probably with their garden hoses, right? All the fire engines are trying to get water out of the fire hydrants. And every time one of those homes burns, you know what happens? It collapses, those water lines break, and now you just have just water flowing endlessly until somebody could get there and shut that off. And no one's doing that because there's like 18,000 structures that will eventually be burned. Some of them, like I said, full, grocery stores, schools. So it's a supply and demand, and there's no municipal water system in the world that can really have enough water capacity to manage that type of an incident. Now, with that being said, what's happening here is a little different. You know, we could have a serious fire here, but the difference between what can happen here for us and what happened to them is it's just a different scenario based on geography, wind factors, fuel moistures. But what we do have here is a good municipal water system. I knew there'd be questions. My staff and I went and met with the CalAm executives and said, hey, these questions are going to come in, so we wanted to be proactive and say, can you tell us and guarantee us that the water systems that we have in Carmel-by-the-Sea, in Monterey, and Pacific Grove, and Sand City, and Regional Airport, and all these other areas we serve, are operational? 100%. And they said, absolutely, they're all 100% operational. They have redundancy plans. They have redundant power in case the power goes out. They have generators to keep pumps moving and all that stuff. And then I asked them to confirm that all the fire hydrants, because National Fire Protection Association recommends fire hydrants get 20% a year in a 5-year cycle to get 100% of the hydrants tested, and guaranteed they assured me that that is happening and they are up to date with all their hydrant inspections. So from that meeting that we had, and our history working with CalAm, I mean, our fire systems here, our hydrants and our water mains, we've had pretty good success over the years. We've never really had a big issue. If we had one big commercial fire, we have to call CalAm to come help. They start diverting water because, the system isn't really, a big commercial fire, we could be putting out 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 gallons a minute. Just that could really cause a supply and demand issue. So you can imagine what it would be on the other scale. So these are municipal water systems designed to fight, structure fires and maybe, a few houses burning. They're not made and designed to, deal with 18,000 structures. It's just not the way it's going to be. But we're in good shape here. We've got the assurances, and on the 27th of this month, we're going to do a Wildfire Ready Monterey. It's going to be at the conference center, and we're going to have CalAm there. We're going to have PG&E there. We're going to have everything, Red Cross there, CERT's going to be there, SPCA is going to be there to talk about pets. We're going to have a panel like this of experts that are going to talk. We're going to have a static display so you can see some of our state-of-the-art equipment that we have. We're going to have all these booths set up. There's going to be refreshments provided, parking validation. So I'd encourage you, because it's not just for Monterey, it says right on the flyer, it's for Carmel, and it's also for Pacific Grove residents. We encourage you to come and attend, and you can have all these questions answered by the experts, insurance commissioner. We're hoping, I don't know if it got finalized today, but we've asked someone from the insurance industry to come and talk, because that's a big question everybody has on their mind. So we should have all the experts there, and it's going to be from 5 to 7:30 or later if we needed to go later. So I highly encourage you to come if you need more information after tonight.
Just out of curiosity, and I don't know if you have the number off the top of your head, Andrew, how many fire hydrants do we have in Carmel?
That's one of those questions that I would have to get back to you on. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. We have a lot of fire hydrants in our system. But I will tell you, at one time, years ago, I was Carmel's fire chief. This is I'm 2.0 fire chief now because I retired for a little bit and I came back to kind of help Monterey with some fire department issues. But back then, the fire hydrants were a really big deal. And we did find that there were some hydrants that weren't working properly. And I was able to work with CalAm and the city, and we did a public outreach campaign, and they replaced a lot of the fire mains back then and brought a lot of it up to par, because a lot of these mains are pretty old, right? And a lot of them but they're constantly being upgraded. But I don't know the number, but I can tell you that we do have adequate number of hydrants in Carmel-by-the-Sea. I remember from back then when we were studying the maps and just kind of understanding what the fire system looked like.
So I remember when I was a kid here 150 years ago that we used to, CalAm or whatever the municipality was at the time, used to test the fire hydrants. And I think Sarah Harnish and I can remember, the water, and I understand there's a water shortage around here, I get that. But, there was a test and it would go down, down the hill to the ocean or whatever. Are we still doing that?
Yes, that's part of that fire hydrant test called flow testing.
Okay.
And they flow test all the hydrants, but you're right, the water became an issue. Fire departments used to do it years ago, then we were told we had to stop. because there was just too much water. So Cal-Am took it over because it is their water, and they did have different apparatus that they can use to control the amount of water, but still get the test and the flow rates to make sure that everything is in service and operational.
And I don't know, but are there hydrants in Mission Trail Park? I don't think that there are,
Well,
so.
not in the park. But
Yeah.
you gotta remember too, each engine has at least 1,000 feet of 5-inch hose, which is basically creates an above ground water main. So they can either do that engine, they can double that if they need to, then they can pump that. And we also have water tenders that will come and are basically, portable fire hydrants that will they could drive right into Mission Trails Park. Our specialized wildland firefighting engines, they're all 4-wheel drive and they're capable to work off-road. We can drive those right into Mission Trails Park when needed if we had to try to get the water inside the park. So.
Yeah, and obviously the same thing at Pescadero
Yeah.
Canyon up in that area and so
Yeah,
forth, yeah.
absolutely.
Chip, you had a point you wanted to make down there?
If you've been around, has anybody seen the blue reflectors in the middle of the street? So those blue reflectors are associated with a fire hydrant. So we make sure those are maintained with our fire department, our public works staff as well. We glue them back down if they're missing. And can anybody tell me how many types of fire hydrants we have in the village? Throw a number out at me. 3, close. We have 2 kinds. So you'd think they'd all be wet, but there's called a wet barrel and a dry barrel. And if you ever want to know the difference, I'm your man to show you.
So the fire hydrants are operational, we should still feel safe, about that. If there is an issue, Pescadero, Mission Trail Park, you've got the equipment to get in and out of there and so
And
forth.
I'll just say, if you're out and about in the community and you see a hydrant that's either leaking or you're concerned for whatever it is, you just give us a call. We'll call, we'll follow up on it. And if there's an issue, we'll get it resolved.
Todd, I assume that in the police department, you have the same collaborative type of relationship with, our sister cities, whether it's in Monterey or PG and the like. Same type of relationship. I know it's a different organization, but can you speak to that a little bit in terms of what that looks like?
Yeah, we really do. I personally have grown up with all the chiefs around here. I've worked with them before, and a lot of them, like Chief Hober was a mentor of mine, and his jokes are usually funnier than mine. But, he doesn't. Yeah, but the beautiful thing is, let's say something does happen in Carmel, and I do need mutual aid. In fact, there was someone that I was looking for recently, somebody that had an issue and needed to be addressed by the police. And I got a hold of Monterey and I said, if this person comes into your city, we need to know about it. And that night it was activated and we were able to take the person into custody together. So we have a wonderful relationship. What I think about is we evacuate and who's left? Us, right? And there's a lot of houses when you look at Carmel that way, when there's just like 30 people left here, maybe 100. With that being said, we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to protect your property. So we have that relationship, and I'm grateful that we do.
I was just gonna say, during the Moss Landing fire we had recently, I don't know about Carmel, but I know that Monterey Fire Department Police Department and other police departments, Seaside, Marina, they all sent officers to help with the evacuations. So we'll do that here too. Like, we would not just be Carmel PD, it would be Monterey PD, maybe Seaside PD and Sheriff's Department. They're all gonna help with these evacuations. We're all, work together as one team when it calls for it.
We call it unified command. Back when I was a kid, police officer, a few years ago, it was like police and fire were separate and everybody wanted to be in charge. And now I think we're humble and we work well together. We immediately, over the radio, we literally use those words. It's a unified command. We're gonna do everything together. So, I might not be the best firefighter, but I'm really good at protecting property and getting bad guys. Really tactfully resolving these type of problems, it takes a lot of people working together, so.
What about the outlying areas, places like the Highlands down in Big Sur and in places like that? If a fire starts there, based on the conversation we're having, the mutual aid and the collaboration and relationships you all have, you can react to something that happens in the Highlands or, maybe further south if required. those folks have a hard time getting out of, the highlands. I mean, there's one way in and one way out, really.
Yeah.
But you're in collaboration with those
Yeah,
different.
we know the different levels of collaboration, or we have auto-aid, which means that certain agencies like Monterey, we have auto-aid agreements with all the Monterey County Regional Fire, with CAL FIRE, with Seaside Fire, which means we're in a certain zone in Monterey, when we have like a structure fire response, we automatically get an engine from one of those agencies to assist, and we provide that engine to them as well. So the same thing, coming down a little more down south to Carmel, we get Pebble Beach sends us an engine automatically. We send them an engine automatically. Cypress Fire Protection District, it's the same thing. There's auto-aid engines. So that's the first level. The next level is mutual aid in county, where you're going to call for it. Like, we're in a commercial fire downtown Monterey, and we need 3 more ladder trucks and 2 more engines and more command officers, so we can manage this incident. And we just request it, and it comes, the closest one will come first, and they'll just keep drawing. Now, we also have adjoining operational areas, like Santa Cruz County, San Benito County, that's the next level. And then the next level after that is we reach out to the state through the Office of Emergency Services. And literally, in the fires in Southern California, I think they had like 1,200 fire engines there. 2 Monterey engines were there, that engine there from all over the country, and some internationally, Mexico, Australia. But the key point is, right now, right this second, if we had some major conflagration or something happening, or an earthquake, whatever it is, I can call for, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 engines, and they'll start filling those orders. And they'll send everything else that comes with it, all the logistics. And then it goes to the federal level, right? And FEMA gets involved if needed or not. But so there's local, state, and then federal. And like I said, being in the state of California, every firefighter in the state of California, part of this big, it's called Master Mutual Aid System. We're all trained the same. We have the same communications, same radio frequencies, and we all work under the same incident command system. So our engine here can be working on in San Diego, and the minute they get there, they just go right to work into the system, and everybody's trained and communicates and works under the same command system. So that's what makes it work so well. And the Office of Emergency Services has hundreds of fire engines, and they don't staff them. But what they do is really smart. They give those engines to different agencies throughout the state. Monterey has one Office of Emergency Services engine. It's a specialized wildland urban interface engine. It's like shorter wheelbase, carries a little more water. It just has a couple of unique features that make it, can go off road a little better. And that engine is staffed by Monterey firefighters in Monterey. We just got a brand new one. But you know what, when they needed it, our firefighters went to Southern California as part of OEA, Office of Emergency Services Strike Team. So, but when they're not needing it right now, that engine's sitting back in Monterey, and we can use it in our system here. So it's the best of both worlds. We get a brand new fire engine that we can use within our system. It's a specialty engine we probably wouldn't have otherwise. But they also get to use that engine in big events. But because we're part of this OES system, we get all those OES engines when we call for it. So it's really a pretty incredible, very comprehensive, very deep bench system that we own.
Well, that's great, and having that type of resources available not only for our residents here in Carmel-by-the-Sea, but in the outlying areas as well. I mean, it really is a great service. We had recently had the tragedy over in Moss Landing as well, with that huge battery fire. There's a lot of folks that have battery packs or Tesla cars and that type of thing in their homes. Is that a concern of yours, number one? And number two, if there is a battery fire at any one particular house, do we just need to let it burn out? Because then that's going to be a problem for the rest of the structure. So how do we handle that? Can you put foam on it, or what do you do?
That's a great question. So, first of all, lithium batteries, right? They're everywhere. You got money right now on your cell phones. They're in your computers. They're very safe. I personally, in my house, I instead of having a natural gas generator for power backup, I have Tesla battery walls. They're extremely safe. They work extremely well. The Tesla cars or all electric cars. There's so many electric cars out there right now. I don't have the statistic with me, but if you took like, per 100,000, internal combustion engine fires, gasoline fires, per 100,000 electric car fires, it's not even close. You gotta remember gasoline is a pretty flammable liquid, right? And car fires are not really that infrequent. Electric car fires are infrequent. I don't remember the last, I think we've had one like in the last couple of years, maybe two. But regular, just during the Concours d'Elegance last time, we had 2 classic car fires. One had $1 million loss, and the other one was a $2 million loss. Why? It's because it has gasoline. Gasoline is very flammable, right? So car fires are actually kind of common. So I think electric cars are extremely safe. I think that the battery walls in homes are very safe. The fire that happened in Moss Landing, that was like an original system, the way it was built and the way it was engineered, where everything was just kind of crammed all in one place. Because right next door to it were the Tesla batteries. And those were all separated just for that reason. But it wasn't because they're better or worse, it's just technology gets better, right? And they learn from those types of tragic incidents, how to safeguard, how to re-engineer for the next time. The fire systems failed in there, so now the engineers go back at it, see, hey, what went wrong, and how can we fix this the next time? Now the question about batteries burning, absolutely 100% you want to let them burn. If there's a car fire downtown Carmel, this electric car fire, as long as it's not exposed to anything where it's going to catch something else on fire, you're going to think we're crazy. It's going to be standing there with our hoses and our equipment, and we're going to be letting it burn. Because what happens, you get thermal runaway in there, and if we start cooling it down with water, oh, it's out. But you know what? It's not out, and it will reignite. So we get it, and it gets on the tow truck, it's out, the guy's driving down the street, reignites. Gets to the tow yard, it reignites. It's going to keep burning, really, until it completely burns out. And that's the strategy they used in Moss Landing. A lot of people go, why don't they put that fire out? Because you can't really put it out. It's better just to let it burn out if you can do it safely. If there's a car in your garage that's on fire, an electric car, first thing we're going to try to do is we're going to try to drag it out. We're going to hook up to whatever we have, we're going to pull it out of the garage and let it burn. And if we can't, well then obviously we're going to do whatever we got to do to protect the structure, and we'll cool it down until we can get in there and get it out. So it's new technology, but you'd be surprised how many electric cars are on the road right now. And we're kind of learning about it every day. Like each car's a little bit different, how to do auto extrication. So it's still a work in progress. But from the fire standpoint, best, safest way is just to let them burn out.
So the latest and greatest question just came in about solar panels. Any effect with solar panels?
No, solar panels are extremely safe. I've never been on a solar panel fire. I mean, I'm not saying it's ever happened. I've never personally been on one in my experience. I have solar panels on my house as well. The problem with solar panels and things like that are more really a problem for the public, for the firefighters, because they're energized, right? So anytime we're dealing with a house fire, if they have solar panels and batteries, we just have to be extra cautious because, electrocution is a real threat. And so that's part of our new training, that we didn't have to worry about that before. We check utility all be done. So we got to make sure that, solar panels, battery walls, that all that power has been shut off, right? So we can do our job and extinguish the fire.
So the risk is not high then with the battery packs on homes in Carmel?
I don't think so. No, not at all.
Okay. Let's shift gears into perhaps undergrounding the utilities. And Chip, I don't know if that's something you can speak to, or have Mary or Javier speak to it, but that's not an inexpensive process, and there's probably considerable bureaucracy that goes into that. So is that something that we're considering, or another alternative?
I think it's a good, fair question. This past city councils have talked about this pretty extensively. It is not currently a city council priority, and it's not just the cost. It's also coordinating with all the other utilities. It's we're an urbanized forest, so we've got all these public trees. So the potential damage to tree roots and the like is something, again, past councils considered. But again, This is a great topic to bring up on the 27th of this month. So just to be clear, we're going to do strategic planning here in the city in the daytime, and then at nighttime we're going to go over with Chief Miller and learn more about being wildfire ready. So to answer your question again, sir, it's something that we have talked about in the past. We've not initiated because of a variety of factors. And right now, undergrounding all the overhead utilities is not being considered by the city.
Roughly the cost on something like that on a per block basis is?
Like 600,000 for 500 feet, so 120,000 or so.
So Javier, who's a professional engineer, said it's about
Like $500,000 for about a 600-foot stretch, so $100,000 per 100 feet.
Yeah, $100,000 per 100 feet, and so our block faces are 10 by 40, that are 400 feet long. So yeah, it's quite a bit of money. And again, there are some, Mr. Councilmember Barron, who's here, he recently told me within the last year that San Diego has a 100-year plan to underground their overhead. There's a lot of forethought in that. I don't know how they're possibly funding it, but it's quite expensive. There is a group of residents on North San Antonio who are working with Pacific Grove and Electric right now to underground a section of the overhead utilities, mostly for view improvement, as being entirely privately funded. But again, Mayor Burns has been working with those property owners for some time. It's nothing in comparison to undergrounding the whole city, but it is a kind of experiment.
So this might seem like a crazy question, but the weather conditions, the fog, obviously the rain we're having today, are we in a high fire risk area? I mean, certainly we are with the urban forests and the trails that we've talked about and so forth, but I think it's to our benefit where we live with the weather conditions and obviously there's nothing we can do to control that, but it mitigates the rest.
It does, there's like, it does and it doesn't. And the real reason I say that is because, the weather has changed. When I was a seasonal firefighter with CAL FIRE many moons ago, we worked seasonally. Then, when you break from college, you go work for CAL FIRE as a firefighter, and fire seasons would last 3 to 4 months, and then CAL FIRE would shut down for the rest of the year, right? Well, as you can see, the fires we just had, fire season is now pretty much year round. It just depends. I mean, our weather patterns are still pretty stable here, but if you remember the month of January here, remember how dry it was? Remember, I noticed in the morning, when you go out to your car in the morning and there's no dew and it's all dusty still, there's no recovery. And that's where you start getting into a little bit of trouble. I walked Mr. Charles Park just recently in Pescadero Canyon and walked up and down there. It's still a lot of green. There's no threat now, and as long as we keep getting rain, we'll be fine. Probably our real fire season here, when we were most concerned, is like late July, August, September, October, right? Those months, we used to, when I was in high school, they called them Indian summers, right? We'd get back to school, then the weather would be beautiful, the rest of it was foggy. So that's really our high fire threat times, but it doesn't mean that like in June, I think June 1st was the Pebble Beach fire back in 1986, right? So it doesn't mean if the conditions are right and we've had a little drought and we've just had a dry spell and a lot of dry fuel out there, right? And sometimes when the rains come, we get tons of rain, and then all of a sudden we get all the grass is growing and everything, and guess what? That all dries out. Now that becomes ground fuel, so that can become part of the problem too. But we are very fortunate, I think, to live on the Central Coast where we do. I'm not saying there is no fire threat, but you can't really compare us to like Southern California. That fire burned all the way down across the PCH, burned all the houses down facing the ocean and melted lifeguard stands. So, we don't have that same type of a threat here. I'm not saying we don't have a threat, but that type of a threat we don't really have. But the weather's changing. I can't say what it's going to be like in 10 years. I don't know if we're getting more dry all the time, so that's just a matter of. But as of today, I feel very, very good about our situation.
Let's pivot for a second onto the insurance topic. You know, we're hearing people with their policies canceled. I had a friend over on the east side of Highway 1, they were just canceled by the insurance company. Is there anything that we can do to prevent that? Or how do we handle it if they call and say, we're canceling your insurance? I guess there's nothing you can do.
When we adopted the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, we told residents to, in turn, tell their insurance carriers that we've adopted this plan. And it's not just a plan that goes on the shelf, as Chief Miller and the commander was saying. There are benchmarks. There's things that we need to do to help mitigate risk. And again, this is a plan that we did in coordination with the City of Pacific Grove and the City of Monterey. Does anybody know where Don Davy Park is in Monterey is it Monris or Abrigo? Abrigo, I think it's on Abrigo. It's right next to Del Monte Center with the City of Monterey, and it's a natural area, pretty big area. The City of Monterey cuts it into 5 different pieces, not literally, but they do 1/5 of the fuel mitigation a year. That's a very proactive way of dealing with wildfire risk. I live near George Washington Park in Pacific Grove. We've done nothing over there. And so it's like a tinderbox. And I would say that Carmel, Graham, you asked a question a little while ago about what's our safety rating. You know, I'm always cautiously optimistic, but I think we're an 8.5 out of 10. I think we're doing pretty well. And some of that, again, is because of the natural environment. The other thing from the insurance standpoint is becoming what's called a fire-wise community. And again, someone, I think it was Mr. Barron the other night, talked about it's a program that you typically see in HOAs, in kind of smaller, not 3,600 single-family dwellings, but it's something that we could look into as a jurisdiction to become a fire-wise community. It does take a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of effort of individual property owners. It's kind of it's a self-perpetuating program. It's not something that we kind of a command and control, we do it for individual property owners. But that might have an impact, a positive impact on insurance companies saying, for a variety of factors, Community Wildfire Protection Plan, what we do to mitigate risk in the city as a jurisdiction, what individual property owners are doing to mitigate risk in a fire-wise kind of a setting, could, in my opinion, Graham, help with insurance rates and these insurance cancellations on the Central Coast.
So does CERT, could that be part of their responsibility? I'm not trying to put Wanda and Scott.
Yeah, Wanda and Scott, why don't you just jump on that? And yeah, I mean, it could be. Again, I think it would require a lot of investigation, and maybe I'm glossing over, but again, not that it matters, but my wife is the deputy city manager in St. Helena and lives part-time in Calistoga, and my daughter and I go out to visit her. And Calistoga, which it has about the same number of residents that we have here, but they're a fire-wise community. So maybe it's homework for me. Maybe I need to figure out how Calistoga became a fire-wise community, because you see the signs, on stop sign poles and the like. So I don't know any more about it, but there was a presentation by, who's that guy that friend of yours who did he's like with the Academy of Sciences or something, Arts and Sciences guy.
Oh, Michael Hogan?
Yeah, him. Yeah. He did a presentation on fire-wise within the last year or so.
Yeah, something we might want to consider,
I was just going to say, Chip is absolutely right. That was one of the things that I heard at the meeting the other night, because fire-wise communities are just exactly as Chip described. And by the way, on the 27th at our Wildfire Ready Monterey, we will have fire-wise reps there that you can go talk to. And you can also contact our office. Our fuels mitigation officer, who is working with us, she's already started. I think we had our first fire-wise community neighborhood was in Pacific Grove, but we now have 2 in Monterey, and it starts to kind of really catch on. But it does a lot of work. The whole neighborhood has to get together and be a part of it. You just don't do it once and stop. You do it, and then there are benchmarks that you have to keep, just like our Community Wildfire Protection Plan. You have to keep working at it. And I do know that if you are in one of those fire-wise communities, it's really important to let your insurance company know. But also, if you're doing all the home hardening and you're doing the defensible space that we're gonna ask you to do, or you're doing it on your own, let your insurance company know that. I mean, they're actually up there moving out with drones and satellites, looking at properties, and they can see, you know, if you've done some great work, I can't guarantee that it's gonna make any difference, but you really gotta talk to your agent and let them know what you've done. And then, you know, they will maybe take a look at it, and it might be some opportunities there or not. But I also have a lot of friends and family that have lost their insurance just because of where they live. And it's very challenging, and I think it's challenging statewide, and I think that it's bigger than the insurance companies. Somehow the state needs to get involved. There are some state policies you can get, but they're minimal, and they only cover the outside of the house. So it's really, I think you're gonna hear a lot more about, especially what's just happened in Southern California. I think that's gonna open up, this is a whole sea change in the way we look at all of this, you know. Prevention, deployment, response, recovery. That recovery there is gonna be incredible, and things like insurance as well.
Well, Nancy just indicated that on our website, there is some information about Firewise and how that all might work, and I know Wanda and her team are very familiar with it as well. So we're gonna have Wanda and Scott up here in just a minute as we wrap up the program. So with Calistoga doing it, Jim, I mean, with the fire that was in Santa Rosa, you know, a few years ago, it's not surprising that they took the initiative to actually do that. Exterior sprinklers, is that something that, you had Todd, so perhaps he can take this one. Is that something that you'd recommend? Obviously there's a cost associated with it, but I would assume every little bit helps.
Yeah, every little bit helps. I don't know a lot currently about external sprinklers. I mean, it's a pretty basic concept, right? You get maybe rainbirds or some type of sprinkler heads that, just like this is a sprinkler, but a lot of buildings, you know, you look up and there are sprinklers in your house. Even new construction require residential sprinklers in your house, right? So it is a good built-in fire protection plan, but there's a couple issues. Is depending on where it's at, you know, depends on the severity of the fire, depends on water pressure. You know, do you have your own water source? Do you have a well? Do you have, you know, a holding tank of some type or another? So if you're just renting off, you know, the regular residential water line, you know, and you're having an experience with, you know, supply and demand we talked about, well, that can be an issue. But there are so many other things you can do that aren't that expensive. You know, home hardening, just getting, you know, new vents, because, you know, the embers get inside the vents on your house or in your attic, and it starts the fire from the inside. It burns from the inside out, so you can't stop it. We have people that will come to your house, even if you're not in the very high fire severity zone, and they will walk you through personally what home hardening looks like. So please feel free to reach out to our team. In fact, we have one of our inspectors here tonight. I hate calling her out. I think she's Cindy. You hear Cindy? There she is. She's Carmel. She's one of our defensible place inspectors. She's a Carmel resident. Has been for a long time.
Cindy, would you like to come up and chat to us?
But she might be actually the one coming when you call us for help. She's on our team, you know, and she lives here. But that's what I mean. You know, we're a small town. You know, we have people that are intimately engaged and entwined in the fabric of this community. You know, so that's just a perfect example. And she's here tonight as a citizen, just because she cares.
So just so we're clear, so we can pick up the phone and call your department and have someone out to our home and actually go through that inspection?
Yeah.
And I'm Scottish, so I want to make sure there's
Yeah.
no cost.
No
to it,
cost.
right?
Cindy, is there any cost, Cindy? No cost.
No, but I mean, all joking aside, I mean,
Yeah.
that's a heck of a program, and if it's for free, and then you leave something in writing, okay.
And we track it too. Now, the defensible space inspections we're gonna do in the very high fire severity zones, we're gonna come in and they're gonna go over all this, and then we're gonna do a re-inspection too, right? So we wanna make sure it's getting done, especially in those areas, but we'll work with you. We're not going in there to cause you any issues. We wanna help you, we care, you know, and we'll work with you to help. And I know some of the stuff can be expensive, doesn't mean you're gonna have to do everything, but the more you can do to get close to what that standard is, and that was a kind of a list that you're gonna get in the mail if you live in one of those areas. it's really beneficial. And it makes they've done studies on this, the houses that survive, if it's not one of these untenable fires, they're hardened. They've done all these things. They've done the clearances. They've enclosed their eaves. They've enclosed their decks that are hanging over so things can't get underneath. All their vents. There's new technology now that's not really expensive. The vents, they will automatically melt and create one solid, wall to keep the sparks from getting in. There's so much stuff out there, and it's all going to be there'll be lots of building trade people at our event that can answer questions. Or maybe they're selling these vents, or maybe they're doing windows or whatever those things are.
So that's your event coming up on the 27th.
Yes, 27th.
So Chip, maybe what we ought to do is kind of a pivot from this meeting at some point, later on this year, summer or whatever it might be, is do something similar to what Andrew's doing over in Monterey, so we can take this perhaps to a whole new level.
Thank you. Ashley Wright and Wanda and some other folks have, the police department and the fire, a lot of people have created these meetings that we've had. Wanda, we had two or three. I did ride my daughter to come to the last one in December, but Carmel prepares. So, they are focused, they are time limited, and last time we had someone from the SPCA and the national, from NOAA, that talked about the weather season. It was just a guess, obviously, but other things. So yeah, I could see us continuing that trend, Graham, to talk about specific topics on a semi-annual basis in a Carmel Prepares format.
Doing it.
Well, we're getting near the end of the program here. We've had some great questions come up, and I hope we've answered a lot of them. And as Chip said, we're going to do this again perhaps later on in the year and so forth. So, Andrew, Todd, Chip, any closing comments you'd like to make before we move into the next part of the program here? We'll let you go last, Chip. So, Andrew, you go.
I just wanted to reiterate, thank you, for inviting me here. This is really where it all happens, right? We're a community, and if we don't work together, we got to take care of each other. We got to take care of our neighbors. You have to understand that, the fire department, the police department, Chip and his staff, the foresters, they all really care. I am highly impressed with the level, not only of expertise and professionalism that they have, but we understand the small things are important things, as are the big things. But Carmel-by-the-Sea is a very unique community, and we want to help keep it that way. We want to preserve it, and the best way to preserve it for the Carmel Foundation and for all of you is to take care of it. And part of taking care of it is all of us do our part to make sure that when we are threatened by fire or wherever else, that we've got some pre-planning, and that we're ready, and that we've done everything we can to mitigate it. So thank you all for giving me the opportunity to be here with you tonight.
I'll just add one thing. We started a new program. It's in its infancy. If you're willing to give it a shot, and you know someone in your world, in your life here in Carmel that could use help with a disability, or have someone in their family that is housebound, there's this program, I call it CSAP, because cops always like to abbreviate everything. So it's Carmel Safety Aid Program. The chief hasn't approved that name yet, so it might change, but that's what I'm calling it today. And it's just a program that lets people register people who need help. So if there's a fire and somebody's housebound, I'm gonna have a team of people that can look at this list of people who need help. But there's a lot of other reaches that this program goes into, but since we're talking about fires tonight, I think it's super applicable. Someone came to the council meeting on Monday and asked, they said, I don't drive. That's part of this formula, and it's how we created it. I even added a box that says, do you drive? It's that clear. And yes, it was tricky because the addresses are not there, for sure, right? So the way we do it, and I have a whole method in here, is you put the post office down as your address, and then on the other, you put your address, your compass points is what I call it. Put your full address in there, or that person's full address. If you're a caretaker or know somebody and care for someone here, we have a way to identify them now. And it's not a registry, I don't like to call it that. I like to call it an alliance. So I think it's a win for us to be able to help each other to rescue people who need help.
And I think to add on to that, people that don't have access to the internet or social media or anything like
Yes.
that's gonna be a tremendous service, you know, to them as well.
We will help you do everything. My whole team is dialed in. They all registered today and yelled at me because they had to put their picture on it. But they're all registered and they're learning how to use it so we can better implement that for the community if you need help.
So thank you again for inviting us. We're grateful to take part in these. I had one of the council members about a decade ago who said to me, "When you say we, do you mean we or we?" And I meant we, like collectively. And so wildfire and disaster preparedness is a big we. So it's not just between and among the people who do this for a living, but it's with the community. And again, we're here for you. We're here with you, and we're grateful to help serve you. So thank you for coming out tonight in spite of the weather.
So again, thank you on behalf of the CRA and the community for all you do, not only tonight, but as we move forward as well. So it's very much appreciated. One of the motivators for this meeting tonight came from the tragedy down in Southern California, particularly in Altadena. We have two members of the CERT team here tonight, Scott Smythe and Wanda Volmer. If I could have them come forward, along with Mark Grancolas, and I think Angelique Bodie is here as well. Scott and Wanda started a gift card program for the benefit of the residents of Altadena. The Rotary Club of Altadena lost the meeting room in the fire where they met every week. Additionally, there were 13 Rotarians that lost their home in Altadena. So that prompted Mark Grancolas, who's here with us tonight from the Carmel-by-the-Sea Rotary Club, for us to make a contribution in a small way to the tragedy that happened down in Altadena. So Mark has a check that Wanda and Scott are going to deliver to Altadena. They're jumping on a plane tomorrow morning with a check from the Carmel-by-the-Sea Rotary Club for $15,000. And the CERT team has raised over $5,000, $5,050 from what I understand, to deliver tomorrow morning as well. So Mark, if I could ask you to give Wanda the check, which she will deliver tomorrow, and then I'm gonna... So, Mark, why don't we get the rest of the CERT team in here, please? Come on.
Don't forget to mention, Graham, you can still donate with the QR code.
Got it.
Yes.
And if we could have you guys stay up here, Nancy, we need one more picture. What I would ask those of you that are here and are comfortable with, if you could put your hands together, we're gonna take a picture and we're gonna have Wanda and Scott deliver it to the folks in Altadena tomorrow, that we're passing on our good thoughts for the community down in Altadena. So if we can all turn around and Nancy will take the picture, and if you'd all put your hands together if you're comfortable doing that. Chip, Andrew, and Todd, if you do the same.
Everybody in there? Alrighty. We're ready, set. I'll take a few here. Go. All right, got it. Thanks, guys.
Right. And the last thing I will mention, in the back of the room, there's a Q code. JC, what do you call it? A QR code? QR code. If anyone feels motivated to donate, those codes are there. And we thank you all for coming tonight and showing your support for the team here. And I think we learned a lot. So again, thank you, Andrew, Todd, and Chip. Have a great evening. Good evening, and welcome to our discussion tonight. My name is Graham Robertson. I'm the current president of the Carmel Residents Association, and again, it's a pleasure to have you all here. Our organization has been one of the premier community service organizations in this community since 1987. We are involved in most issues and matters concerning Carmel-by-the-Sea, and we have over 890 members strong, not only in Carmel, but throughout the country as well, the second homeowners and the like. We have a mission statement, which I'd like to read you briefly, and then we're going to get going with today's program. The mission statement reads as follows. The Carmel Residents Association is committed to the protection and enrichment of the traditional quality of life in Carmel-by-the-Sea and the preservation of its heritage and natural beauty through education, community activities, and advocacy. We have several of our very hardworking board members here tonight, and what I'd like to do is have them stand and be recognized for all their hard work. Ken White, Frankie Laney, Tim Toomey, Mary Condry, Sherry Williams, Sarah Harnish, Sherry Schoenbarger, Janine Chickaro, Nancy Toomey, Mike Brown, J.C. Myers, and Sigale Lomas. Please give them a round of applause for all their hard work. We're going to keep this conversation as informal as possible tonight. We have quite a few questions from the audience and so forth. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce our distinguished panel for our discussion tonight. First of all, Fire Chief Andrew Miller. Andrew.
Thank you.
Our new Police Commander, Todd Trayer. Todd. City Administrator Chip Rerig. And we have several other staff members in attendance tonight should the questions can't be answered by Chip, Todd, or Andrew. So welcome.